Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to part three of the Energy Drain series with Psychic Vampires. Stay with us. So psychic vampires is such a buzzword, and if you've ever been into any place where you talk to somebody and then immediately afterwards you're just like, "Rrr," like you may have encountered an energy vampire, or maybe you're an energy vampire and you're like pulling other people's energy. But that's the topic today: energy vampires, what to do about it, and how to kind of regulate your own energy so that you don't have to worry about being depleted if you happen to run across one.
What shall I call that in the medical world? Psychic vampires.
I don't know. Well, that's your job to like translate it to the medical
I
world.
was thinking, I'm like, what term can I put that for? What term can I apply for my folks?
I think
Negative people.
in-laws, no.
In-laws, yeah, right?
Yeah, in-laws perhaps. Yeah,
In-laws disguised as psychic vampires.
yeah, I think it's just like taker energy. Is I
Yeah.
mean, we call it energy vampire, but there's like in shamanism, we have this idea called Aini, which means divine reciprocity. And if you're always giving, that creates hucha. If you're always taking, that creates hucha. It's about a balance and a flow.
Yes.
So if there's people around you that are looking to get more out of you than they're putting into you, like this is the definition of corporate America. Think about that. Like
Yeah.
that's what the vampire thing is, because it's any place where there's an imbalance in energy flow and that there's more going out than coming in.
I think those are such key points that I think is a great place to start. It is about balance. And if you want to create health, wealth, prosperity, awesomeness in your life, be aware of who you are hanging around with. They've done studies, they've put really rich, wealthy people in the Bronx amongst poverty. And within, I believe it was a month or two, I don't recall the exact study terms, but those people lost a lot of money and lost a lot of prosperity. So it's all about awareness. It's all about energy and the energy of the people that you spend a lot of time with. So
Yeah.
that's a
That's
great
a
place to start.
really good point, because like if you think about when I was growing up and everything, my parents would be like, I don't like you hanging around that person. Well, the reason was that sphere of influence, whatever energy they were pulling for you, starts to modify your own behavior.
It
And
does.
I probably did some things I never would have done had I not been hanging around with a certain group of friends. And at the same time, as a parent, you can't like make them not, but it really has an effect. And I remember there was
Yeah.
this one teacher that gave this example, like, say here's a glass of water and then here's all these other ones, and it's like some colored water, um, just different food colorings and everything, and you influence each one of them a little bit and they influence each one of you a little bit. When you look at the glasses, you see how much more impacted you were and how little they were impacted by your influence. So like it's really a good demonstration to see exactly how much you can be polluted in a way by other energies if you're not being mindful and really having a healthy boundary, energetically speaking, of the people around you.
That is a great term. How much are you polluted by other people? Because energy, people's energy permeates like smoke vapor. I wrote that, or yeah, I did a Facebook live on that. It will, or maybe I post or something. I remember I wrote that. So, and we get it. Like sometimes you have the family members that are challenging to be around because they're on their own journey. You can only control yourself and your life, but be protective of your mind and be protective of your heart like nothing else, because the people you surround yourself with sometimes don't have ill intentions. um, I had a thought and it just went poof. Darn.
Oh man,
Poof the Magic
poof.
Dragon is in action today. That was really good when I was younger, but oh, now it came back. Good. So there was a period of time I went through, maybe even a half.
Uh-oh. Did I freeze or did Dr. K freeze? I do not know.
Oh, I went off there for a second. Where I used to take on other people when I was hanging around certain people, I would take on personality like traits. So if they laugh a certain way, I started laughing that way. When they'd say certain terms, I'd take on those terms.
think we're having some leg
Yeah,
issues today, Dr. K.
we are. And I don't know if that's on my end.
I'm actually freezing, and that's why she looks like she's freezing. But just to talk a little bit about that emulation thing, like that on the flip side, like we have a tendency to emulate bad behaviors, but if you find somebody that is creating what you would like to create, in NLP we use a term called modeling, and you look at whoever it is that is already successful at the way that you want to be successful. What are they doing? How are they filling their day? What actions are they taking? And by emulating those people, you can recreate the same result much more quickly. So that it could be a very useful thing to do if you're doing it in a very conscious way and for creating what you like to create. But if it's an unconscious thing, are you slipping into the bad habits of somebody else? That's where you got to really kind of mind your P's and Q's.
Yep. And I read that even last night. So if you want to become something, you have to change your concept of self. And so, a silly example, if you want to be a basketball player, speak as if you're already an amazing basketball player, and then surround yourself with people that are very good at that already. So you can start pulling that in. The other thought that really comes in to talk about, which I think is really big and really important, is the commiseration of being around people. So if you're having issues, say you're going through a divorce, we'll just use that that's a common, like, silly example. If you're going through a divorce and your husband is just, you really hate him and this whole thing's like going down, and you start to hang out with gals that are also going through a divorce or went through a divorce, that will reinforce that for you. Oh yeah, he's terrible, he's a cheater, I went through the same thing, this is what you do. These people are pulling down your energy. They are not lifting you. You may think they are, and it feels good, like, oh, somebody understands me, somebody understands what I'm going through. No, I mean, I get it, but if you're trying to lift yourself out and make this divorce easy and make it smooth, you have to emulate love. Love, or another word that you want to use, just peace and happiness. You want to create a peaceful ending. If you hang out with people that reinforce how horrible somebody is, forgiveness is the key to the whole thing. It may not seem that way, but that's just an example. Or if you're sick and you're hanging around with people that, oh yeah, I have the same thing, and oh my God, I'm always so tired, and oh, it's just horrible. And you're going to reinforce that energy over and over and over. And that's not going to help you get better, because the amazing thing is the body's not designed to be sick. The body is a miraculous machine that's designed to heal on itself, so long as we don't interfere too much. Sometimes we need a little help, but what made you sick? And versus hanging around with people that, are sick and commiserate with your pain, and it just pulls your energy down. It may feel like they're helping you, but in essence, if you're truly trying to get better, you have to get the mental strength to tell your cells, I am improving, I am getting better every single day, right. And not, oh my God, the pain's so bad.
And sometimes though, like the opposite can be, because either way, like in with the tarot that I do, like Three of Pentacles is all about, no matter what side of the dogma you're fighting, you're still in the dogma, you're still fighting the dogma, and it can still be energy draining, whether you're on the positive side or the negative side. And I feel it's important too. It's not just the negative. It's like, don't get drawn into a polarity issue, and really just be in a, awareness, make good choices, different choices, explore things through questions and things, but to commiserate on the other one, like, oh yeah, you did so much better than them or whatever, like, you're still polarizing, and that can still create this energy drain. And this is like a situational thing, and then you're just adding potency to that drain by having other people jump in, because misery loves company, right? And then you're just increasing that energy flow and drain, where if you could really come from a place of, it's a very interesting set of circumstances that I'm finding myself in. What could I create and do differently to have a different experience, rather than say, I'm doing such a good job at it, they're doing such a bad job at it, and avoid that polarization altogether.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's better. Maybe, I don't know if it's better. This is just I'm going to say it as a generalized statement. Being alone in your own energy, so you can tackle your own energy.
Yes. Just you, yourself, and your soul. Which is what easier. I think, like with COVID, that's what happened to a lot of the world, is they had an interrupt. They were brought out of their normal routines. They ended up having to, just be at home and just have to sit themselves in their soul. And it was just like a wake up call for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll chat for a second because I think we have some lovely comments
No, I
that
just
need
blocked
to
that. Yeah, you know that you're doing good when you
Oh,
start getting the trolls, and it's like, so if you were on YouTube, I apologize for the crazy, inappropriate
Whoa.
comments, but they're gone now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it may seem lonely, like I'm all alone, but you're not. You have so much energy behind you. Like I always say, picture a really bright light behind you, like just amazing beings behind you that are there to help you um, at all times, and just they're always there. You're never ever alone. It may seem that way. Start tapping into knowing. Just know there's angels, being guides, everything's around you to help you. The universe is there to help you. So
Yep.
you're never alone. But I'm finding it easier sometimes to be alone, so to speak, because I don't like to get tangled up in other people's energy.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
good to know
handle
where
my
you
own.
stand too, because like we're so empathic and things, and we weren't taught to differentiate like where we end and where someone else begins. That until you have that clear distinction, it's really good to kind of retreat back for a moment and be like, okay, what is just mine here? Am I picking up my neighbor's opinion about this, or is it what do I really know about this? And Nanette, thank you so much. Radiant Reiki, she's
Yes,
like she was reporting them as well, and
thank
she was
you.
about to
Like
comment, and she
crazy.
reported them. Thank you, and Nike and
Yeah.
Nike. Like all of us content creators have to like stick together and stuff like that. So like help each other out when things like that happen. I was doing like a TikTok live the other day, and there was like some really interesting trolls, but like people like that were my regular followers stepped up, moderated, and like we just got it taken care of. It was really nice. And the nut saying that I really needed to hear what Hank was just saying about asking how can it change to not experience it. I have weird confrontation energy from three different people with two different situations. Yeah, it's like Bashar, which is somebody that I've been following recently, and I kind of got Dr. K turned on to him as well. Everything that shows up in your life, the only question is, do I prefer this or not? That is the discernment, the good judgment. Do I prefer it or not? If you say I don't prefer it and it sucks, now you're actually adding into polarity. You're creating those energy drains instead of saying, well, if I don't prefer it, what would it take for me to experience what I do prefer? And then your focus, because energy flows where your attention goes, instead of saying it sucks and empowering the thing that you don't want to show up, you're now focusing on what could I do and be different to create the experience that I would like. And that's a whole different energy. And then you're also focusing on the problem, or not problem, the solution versus like the problem, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that pops into mind there is whatever is outside of you going on, people, places, things, situations, is you pushed out. So be also aware of what's going on inside you, because sometimes we attract people that pop into our lives. I know people that are sometimes in relationships or have certain friends that hang out. I'm like, but these people are like, they're attracted to you for some reason, and they're being drawn in because there's something inside of you that's mirroring that. So take a
Yeah.
look inside and what's going on in there. If you've got a lot of chaos inside, like you feel unsettled inside, or unhappy with yourself, or not enough, or whatever you want to look at,
Hmm.
take a gander inside yourself and your own mind. And are the people around you reflecting that for you? Are they similar to that?
Yeah. And the everything is a reflection, because we're all one and we're all separate. Both are true. We don't have to argue about that because the greatest truths are paradoxes. But if all of creation is in fact happening within you, everything you're perceiving is outside of you is a mirror of some sort, or a personification of an aspect of you that is playing out that you're noticing. And so then the question is, well, what in me is allowing this to show up? And really diving into that, it's a whole, it really makes you 100% accountable and responsible for everything that shows up in your reality. But the moment that you say, no, that's not my fault, that isn't me that's creating it, you just gave away your power as a co-creator. So it's like really being an allowance of, or awareness that, hey, everything that's showing up, the buck stops here. Someplace my choices, spoken or unspoken, conscious or unconscious, is allowing this to create and show up. If you can dive into that, you can literally change anything. But if you're in resistance to it and want to play the victim, that's when you just
Yeah.
gave away your power.
Yeah. And I see a lot of that. We don't want to look at things. We don't want to tackle things. I have a client that I'm like, I know she needs to heal this relationship, but she refuses, absolutely refuses. So like, well, that's going to go on and create a little chaos or a lot of chaos. So, yeah, these things happen, and it is our resistance of it's not going to work. This person will never listen to me. All kinds of things that we come up with, but yet that's what we're faced with.
And words are powerful.
So,
If you are looking at that like, oh, it's not going to work, it never works out. It's always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like just saying that is what is helping to create the other shoe to drop or for it to not work. Instead, say, what would it take for me to have a different experience around blank in my life, this person in my life, the situation in my life? And now you're focusing on the universe giving you a different possibility versus saying, why does this keep happening? And then you experience another example. Why does this keep happening? It's
yeah.
really shifting out of where you like you can never go back to where you've been. It's about going forward and what you could become. And when you really get that, it's like you're always focusing on like the moment, the process in the moment that's going to bring whatever it is that you're looking to create. Because that's what's our Indian guy's name that we've been watching? I can't.
Sanguru.
Sanguru, yes. And we've talked about this a lot where he talks about like if you're looking to create flowers, you don't focus on the flowers, you focus on the process in the moment, and then the flowers come. So
Yeah.
like the soil and the water and all these things, but if you're focusing that it never works, or I wish it would work like this, both of those are fragmentations out of the moment of what could I be and do now that is going to start shifting my reality into the one that I prefer.
Yeah. And how do you do this? It's like people are like, okay, well, that's gaining awareness. I mean, you really have to get a very, very still mind, a very observant mind. A lot of us like to live in the past. Been there, done that. Like, oh, I miss those times when I was like, that's gone. The present moment is where all the answers are. And
there is only the present moment.
There is only the present moment. And back then it was still the present moment. Yeah. You really have to quiet the mind. Really, really have to quiet the mind. And that's the thing that I think everybody needs to work on. I've gotten pretty good at it. I'm much better than I used to be. We all have so much noise in the head because of the world, because of things going on around us. The answers are always coming to you. The answers to what you're asking are always coming. We can't hear because we've just got too many things rolling in here.
Now, we do have Amber commenting here that she says, I'm struggling to stay out of polarity with big events like the R verse over Yep, there we go. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name, but being overturned. How do you not give away your power when people are taking away rights? Is fighting for rights really giving away power? I find myself sucked into huge emotions around it.
Hmm. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Hank?
Well, I had to take care of that comment thing again for a second.
Yeah. Those are,
when things like that happen, the key thing to remember is like, well, one, that's not a reflection of you. Well, it is a reflection of you in a way, but it's a lot of the unconsciousness. And it's like, don't fight like, oh, this is wrong that they're doing that. Like, well, what could I be and do here to support what the world that I would prefer to live in, and not get caught up in the polarization, because all that stuff is polarizing humanity. And rightfully so, perhaps. But then the question is, well, what would it take for me to rise above that? Because a problem can't be solved from the same level of which it was created. You have to rise above that. And it's like, well, what could I be and do here that's going to support the world that I would like to live in and pro-choice or whatever, without fighting the other side? Because that's, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And this is what's happening. We consistently have this fight, where if we're an allowance of what shows up and now we can choose differently, it creates a space for the other side on both sides to fall into a different possibility. And that's where we're going to start having the growth. But as long as we're in that fighting energy, it's really hard to break out of that. And that's what the powers that be would like, because as long as you're trapped in polarity, you're not going to be aware and rise up and start to change the world.
Totally. And it's tricky. That's a very, very tricky topic, especially for both men and women, because there truly is no right or wrong. And we live in a world, I don't know what the word would be, Hank, help me out with the word, where there's no right or wrong. It just is. Things just are.
In Conversations with God, it says you can use all the experience in your life as a meditation, contemplating the divine. You can label everything however you want. You can label everything as perfection. But the key takeaway thing is that everybody is going to have their own labeling of things. But what we're doing is we're getting into these these polarity things instead of saying, it should be for everybody to choose what is right for them. We're then putting a moral projection onto something, saying, oh, this one way or the other, there's this moral projection, and it's like you got to pick a side. Well, no, what if you don't even need to pick until it's like relevant for you, and then what is right for me in this moment? And one person might make one choice one time and a different choice another time because the energy is different and they have a different knowing around it.
Yeah,
and if we went based on our knowing, we wouldn't be caught in this moral dilemma.
Yeah. There's a lot of right or wrongness around this. And this is, some people won't even hear this message because it's like, no, it should be pro-choice. No, it should be pro-life.
Right.
You're killing
And see,
a life.
that is the polarization. And then we're so trapped in that we can't, like, well, maybe it is not such a black and white world, and there's many shades of gray.
There is.
And there's many shades of variation based on each individual person's experience and what is right for them in that moment. And how can we judge somebody else's path? Like it's really easy, like, because of my thoughts, I'm going to project it onto you that you have to think the way I do, but it's not really the way.
It is all about judgment in this. And so I guess Amber, I would look at what is your judgment and where's the truth of that? Look at the truth inside you. Where did that originate? If you're getting caught up, see if that answer comes to you. Because if you just observe the world, I always say, like, you're on a plane and you're just looking down saying, oh, look at that house. But there's no energy being pulled up like, oh my gosh, that house is on fire. People are going to die. And you get all that. You're just observing and just knowing that everything's going to get taken care of. If you can come from a place of peace is the best word, and compassion, you have way more power than anything. So there's this constant battling, and the battling, and like Hank says, the constant conflict doesn't solve anything. And this will go on till the end of time. There will always be.
And when governmental agencies and powers that be, like, create these polarizing issues, it's creating this huge morphic energy vampire for us as a collective, because all of our energy is so focused on this one thing that you're not paying attention and seeing all this other stuff that is going on, that maybe you could have a helping hand in shifting somewhere else. But it's a lot of smoke and mirrors and different things.
It is. And let's rev people up. Let's create more anger because it's boring right now. Things are calm. Let's just, the war in Ukraine is not talked about anymore. COVID is not talked about anymore. Let's create something new. There's always going to be something to rev people up. That's the goal.
And let's say that comment though, like, there's always got to be something to rev people up. What if that is what creates the next something that revs people up? So like being aware of that too.
Yeah, there's no need. If you find internal peace around that, and I get it, as a mother, you're probably, I don't know if you are or not, but the moms out there, the people that maybe have had a difficult time and made a different choice, that they are now being, perhaps kind of frowned upon. So you have to allow everybody their own journey. And there really is, when you look higher and know that there's a much bigger power in play, and there is really no right or wrong, there's cause and effect. So it's a whole different conversation, and it can be a very tricky one, because most people will dig their heels in and saying, no, how can you say that this is right, but this is right? So that's a very tricky conversation to have, I think.
It is. And I invite everybody, when you're really looking at things that are polarizing, like, really ask, what is true for me here? What do I know about this? What do I feel about this? And not get caught up on other people's, like, projections of their points of view, because points of view and opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, and some of them stink more than others. And so, like, it's like, but what do you really know about it? And don't rely on other people's projections to come to your own awareness of what's right or wrong for you. And then also recognize that what's right or wrong for you in this moment, tomorrow may be different. The energy could be different. If you're really in the moment choosing for what feels lightest for you, that's going to serve you the most. That's the guiding compass that we all ought to be going based on. And that can change from day to day, moment to moment, even on the same topic.
Stay in your own lane. I think people stay in your own lane. Because I don't even watch the news anymore, because it's so easy to get down that rabbit hole. How many people turn on the news first thing in the morning and your head is already in there, like, boom, whatever's going on governmentally, whatever's going on everywhere else. They shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong. I can't believe that. It's like, you've already given your power away. You give your power away every time you dive into one of the polarized opposites.
Yeah.
You
And
really do.
that's where you're creating the energy vampire effect. Like, how much of that is self-inflicted, you know? Like, it's not just other people, it's our polarization with them that is allowing that trickle to happen. And then the
Yeah.
more you can be an allowance instead of the fight, better.
And
And
there's
just,
energy vampires that like that. They watch it
yeah.
all and it's like,
Oh
ooh,
yeah, they're
nice.
like they just can't get enough of it. I love
Yeah.
myself a good telenovel of the soul. I gotta admit too. Like, but it's like, yeah, but it's not about energy vampire. It's just like enjoying the story, you know. But we had Mary Lee just saying, "Listen for divine guidance." That was a while back, but she was commenting, and then Debbie Schubert was just saying, "Good morning, wonderful people," and Amber was just commenting on her on the whole narrative here that it's like external control. Like a lot of that stuff is external control, and a lot of the way some parties in politics work is they pick a polarizing issue, and that's how they kind of divide and conquer. Is kind of
Yeah.
the mindset with
Yeah.
it. And then we had Melody just saying, "I absolutely love this topic," and you know, it kind of went more of a macro level. When I think when we started this topic, we were going to be talking a little bit more individually, but when you look at the collective, there's all these things where there's these big energy vampire or energy vortexes that are hogging all of our attention and resources, and like reclaim your power. And instead of giving that away, like really ask, like, what could I be or do today to further the refined expression of my soul?
Hmm.
And maybe not even get caught up with all that stuff because it's all distraction about from you being you.
Totally. It's yes, we have a collective consciousness, so we're all out there up leveling. We also have our own path. And I always say, stay in your own lane, stay on your own path, because you're here to do something. Your soul is here to learn something. Go along with that and help that come to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah. And then for
So
Melody, we have so question, if we don't defend our freedoms, should we just allow what's going on in our government?
a really good
And
question.
following up with that, do we just send love and light and move on? And so it's not a question of like if you're defending against something, like you're a sovereign being, and laws or no laws, you're going to be able to do what's right for you,
Yeah.
you know. And you will figure out a way. Like back in the day, there were certain essential oils that could like easily take care of things, and I'm not going to mention it on air right now, but like there's certain things where people were able to do that. So like instead of getting caught up in that, recognize, well, you know, I still do have my choice. It's my body, it's my choice. And you know, if I put out to the universe that I need to make this choice in a safe way, things are going to manifest and bring you a way to do that.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so it's not but getting into the nitty gritty of like, oh, I got to go stand, like if that's a lie for you and you know that it's going to create more and you're asking the questions, what serves me to go to a protest, then that's fine. It's when you're really getting just charged in the argument for the purpose of the argument, and it really doesn't have any serving of your soul and your path. That's where it's like you're just letting your energy drain to something that's not really serving you. And for some people that is going to be, you know, getting involved in things like that, but it's not for everyone. It's an all individual question, just like the topic itself. You know, you got to
Yeah.
ask what's really going to serve me here and serve my soul, and you know, focus on that, and not like, oh my gosh, look what they're doing, I got to go fight them. Like there's a whole different energy with that, where now you're fragmenting from your being versus having it be an expression of your being.
Yeah, it
Uh,
doesn't mean you don't get angry. It doesn't mean you don't necessarily have an opinion. It's how deep are you going to get in there and how long
yeah,
are you going to stay and energize the anger. If you want to defend something, please do. If you feel in your heart and soul to go to a protest, do it with love and compassion, because that's the key. And this
right.
is really tricky. It's like staying on your own path, yet loving and being compassionate towards everybody involved.
And
And
for
that's the
people who are
tricky
going out
part.
to protests and things, the space you're holding is so, like, because if you go in with that fighting mentality, like
Mhm.
you are really just empowering more of that divisive nature. But if you're going in from a space of allowance and we're just demonstrating what we're choosing, but without the fighting part, there really is a difference. And one is going to be able to create a lot more, and one is just going to energy flows where your attention goes, and the problem gets bigger. You're just feeding the problem instead, and that's like a very fine distinction that we really need to have better mindfulness around.
Yeah, and I think certain souls come on this planet to have certain tasks at certain levels. So there are people that are going to come here to defend whatever that is, or do the research around whatever that is to move things forward. Whether that's you, I don't know.
Yep.
But was that what your soul came here to do? Perhaps, but to hold compassion for all spaces. It's not like narrow-minded, like this is it. I hate this and I'm gonna fight it tooth and nail. It's having that broad, like, no, this is not uplifting for people. I'm going to uplift people in every way that I can, and hold compassion for both spaces. That's the key. So.
And Amber made this comment that defense of the feminine does hit me in my soul. I think that's why I'm struggling so much. But let me invite you to consider that there's a difference in energy between defending the feminine and just stepping into your power.
Yes. Yeah.
And one is like adding to the problem, and one is like, here, I am woman, hear me roar. You know, and like that's really like, instead of fighting all this stuff, like what would it take for all, like men too, like there's like stepping into that divine feminine, because we all have both within us.
Yeah.
And like really stepping into that power and focusing on the power rise versus the old power trying to hang on. Because in one way you're kind of empowering the old way, instead of like, let's just really step in. What could I do? What could I be out there creating that is going to really show how the divine feminine is going to change the planet, versus I'm so focused on defending the feminine over here, where, you know, no offense, but women, they could they're amazing, and they don't necessarily need to be defended if they were to step into their power.
Yeah, perhaps past lives and where you had some karma around that. I don't know. But I hear that. Yeah, completely. It really is about, versus trying to put your thumb down on something and say, no, step into a bigger power. How am I going to change this? How am I going to create a new path? And stepping into that power of, all right, you little folk that continue to keep fighting, I'm going to step into something bigger. And I'm going to really show you what feminine power is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel the difference?
If everybody did that, the next thing you know, we would be in a different world, and the whole government would be like, what just happened? We just got blown away, you know?
And it's possible. It's possible.
Because we're not focusing on the fight. We're focusing on what's possible, and like how I can make a difference in the world.
So
and
well
that
said.
is a whole different energy, because now you're not fighting this thing. You're not fragmented. You are just stepping into power and changing the world.
Totally. That is so well said. That's totally different energy, Amber. So I hope you can kind of differentiate there, that there's versus like getting in there and just fighting for, I'm not saying don't fight for your rights, but it's a very different energy to step in and just like, it's almost, I see a crowd of people and one person just stepping out and becoming really big, and then all those people follow that. So yeah, that's a totally different thing.
And you know, Martin Luther King Jr. was a great
Perfect
influence
example.
on that, because then they would show up. It was all nonviolence. They just showed up. They were just present. They weren't fighting. And look at how much change that created. And I think Gandhi was the same way. Like there was like a whole thing with them being, the city being overtaken, and they had like this whole thing of non-resistance, and it was a space of allowance, and that allowed so much more change to occur than if they had actually fought. It would have created a lot more of the very thing that they were looking to avoid, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, she says, yes, I think so. Thank you. You're most welcome, Amber. Thank you so much I think all of you. Today has been a wonderful day of a lot of participation and comments and things. And that's what we really like, is having the interactions where we can take the conversation in different ways. This whole thing just kind of unfolded today. We didn't plan it exactly the way, we didn't plan anything other than the topic, right? But it's really cool to see how it's unfolded today.
Yeah, so I guess then people probably want to know, what do you do about these people that like want from you, take? Oh, that's another point that I want to mention. Which spectrum are you in? Are you a taker, or you're too much of a giver? There has to be some balance. People that are taking too much or giving too much. Like there's a lot of people I know that just have, you know, in-laws or family members. They feel they have to take care of everybody, and they are taking care of other people so much that they get sick. I see it a ton.
I see it a lot as well.
You're giving away too much of your own energy. And when you give too much of your own energy without balance, things will happen to you. And then you're going to get depleted. And I say, no, you, no, nothing. So it's like, how are you going to take care of these people if you are depleted?
And in shamanism, we have that word called Aini, divine reciprocity. It really is about being in flow, being in an energetic dance with creation in all aspects around you, of being in the flow with things. And if you're not in and you might be really good about being in the flow, like Dr. K and I are really good in the flow, but maybe me and one of my other friends were not such a great Aini situation. So you really have to look at it individually, per relationship, per situation, per type theme in your life, and like where do you need to really look and bring balance to the flows of energy in certain areas, and that is essential. And one of the ways you can learn that is go meditate with a tree, because trees are a representation of Aini. Yes. We give them carbon dioxide, they give us oxygen, and it's like that is a perfect demonstration of how Aini works, and what would it take for you to be in Aini in all areas of your life, how we are in Aini with the trees.
Yes, nature is just amazing, amazing. But yeah, watch where you're taking too much, where you're giving too much, because it creates nonsense in the body.
Yes.
So, and you can always turn it around. You can always heal it. You got to recognize it. You got to recognize, take a look in what's going on, sort through some of those files and say, okay. And maybe get some outside help, somebody that can look in and help you sort through those files and put them back in their appropriate folders. And the body and the mind can change at any point in time.
Yeah. And on the screen here, through the whole thing, you see my website, hanksolo.com. You have Dr. K's website, ihmohio.com. You can reach out to Dr. K or myself. We both do like life coaching, healing, all kinds of things. So if you're really stuck and you need, like, for your situation, some very specific guidance, that is what we do for like our job. So like you can definitely, reach out and help, you can support us and we support you. And it is an amazing Aini. Look, that's a great.
Absolutely. We're just here we're here. Like my favorite line, we're all here to help each other walk home. Right?
Walk each other home. I
walk
love
each
that
other
too.
home. I love that. So, and what do you do about people that you feel are draining you? Well, look inside yourself. Number one, why are they being drawn to you? And I know why, but taking an evaluation of the reason these people hang out. Are you commiserating with them? Are they reinforcing things for you? And that makes you feel better because, somebody understands me and my sickness and my divorce and my situation and my child support, that whatever it is.
Yeah.
Take a look at that. And I would encourage you to not commiserate and start empowering yourself and stepping into a different power, cord cutting, and if those people are toxic and they're toxic, quit hanging out with them. Really.
And if you don't quit hanging out with them, don't complain about them showing up.
Exactly.
Because you're choosing it.
Yes, thank you. Don't complain. I've heard a lot of that. Like
that was part one of our series. Because for those of you who don't know, this is part 3. This is Energy Vampires. This has been it's a 6-part series. Let me get my little clip here. So we have these different things. Oh no, it's a 5-part series. I thought it was 6. So like next week we're going to do unseen entities for energy drains, and then we're going to do food and movement. So you can go back on our YouTube channel. You can watch our first one, which was complaining is draining, and then also last week we did, or 2 weeks ago, because I couldn't stream last week. I was too spacey. Like I couldn't hold a sentence together. So Dr. K's like, yeah, you're no use. Let's just like bump it a week. But like go back and watch those other things. We really were honing in specifically on energy draining and the different ways that it occurs. And then we're going to be doing an energy, like how to pull in energy series. So we're going to be doing the flip side. So once we stop all the drains, now how do we fill you up? And that's going to be like the part 2 of the energy series, if you will, or sub series, I should say.
Series.
Yeah, and Melody is saying, I love that. I noticed I was attracting that divorced lady friends.
Yep.
And once it was done, I couldn't relate to any of them anymore because they were stuck in that vibe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's such an awesome comment.
And she's saying, I love this series. Can't wait for part 2. And just like when Anya and I had our kids, like there were so many of our friends that kind of just fell to the wayside. But then as they had kids, they came back into our lives because there's just like a dissonance sometimes with where you're at and where other people are at. And there's not a wrongness to that, but people will come into and out of your life vibrationally depending on what's happening.
Yes.
And so like that's a broad example, but like narrowing it down, like, well, what is going on in your life that you might be attracting certain friends or certain people or certain situations to your life? And the two NLP questions are, oh, where have I felt like that before? And like it starts to help you drill down to like the original energy that's causing something to repeat. And then once you find that one, it's like, well, I actually another one from Dr. K is like all the times and all the ways I felt blank. It's another way to bring up all the themes of energy and then drill down when was the original time I felt like this,
Yep.
because you're pinpointing what really needs to shift so that whatever is showing up can start actually changing and like you can have a different experience with it. But if you're not willing to look at it, unconsciously you just keep going through these same cycles over and over again. Like I think Neil Donald Walsh married the same woman like 7 times until you realize like, oh yeah, I'm creating the same person over and over again because I'm not willing to look at this one thing in my life. And then once he was able to look at that thing, his entire relationship things shifted. So it's really willing to be rigorously honest and look at oneself. And
yeah, internal work. I did a
internal
lot of
work.
internal work, a lot, because when you start to shift that, you're going to attract different people. So if you're looking to attract
Yeah.
a certain person and you're not getting them and you're not attracting who you want, you've got to do the internal work, because there's a piece in there that keeps bringing the same thing over and over. And the divorced ladies, I think
Oops.
those are energy vampires
There we
in
go.
themselves, but
We lost our frame for a second.
the divorcee club. As you raise and change your vibration, you are going to either attract, people are either going to be really uncomfortable around you, maybe start a little conflict, or they will completely fall away. As my vibration changed, there's certain people that I don't know, we just don't talk as much anymore. And it's nothing bad happened. It's not like we had an argument. We just spent less and less and less time together because those people don't resonate with where you're at. They don't understand your vibe, and so they just kind of trickle off. And
yeah, or they totally ghost you. Like I got dropped like a hot potato for multiple people because I'm crazy shaman that was going through some weird shit, and they're like, "We can't handle you, dude." Drop.
That's possible too.
No, it definitely was possible. There was no subtle
possible.
falling away. It was like, you're out.
So that's what I can say is, if you want certain people to, like, people keep getting drawn to you, you don't know how to get rid of that. Like, hi, Dr. K, Hank, how do we get rid of these people that keep coming back and keep calling me? Something in your vibe is keeping them there. And is it going to be an overnight process? Possibly. But the sooner you can change your vibe,
the more rigorously honest you can be and authentically look at yourself and be transparent with yourself. Once you get there, you can say, well, that's not what I prefer. What would it take for me to have a different experience? And now you are on the track to change it.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to look at it first and shine that flashlight under the bed of your subconscious and like really look for those deep, dark things that you've been hiding since whatever, childhood or last week.
That's a good point too. What do you prefer? Because sometimes we say we don't want the drama and the trauma.
But we do. We do. I love a good telenovela. So it's like
we do.
But the thing is like when it comes to that, if you like, I mean, because we came here for a contextual experience. So let's just be real that the trauma and the drama and part of that is part of the human experience. But the question then becomes like, how can you be in the story, but not of the story? Like not getting drawn in, but enjoying the contrast that it's here for. And there's a fine line with that too.
Yeah, don't let it stay. The drama and trauma will happen. It's happened to me. It's happened to Hank. It's going to happen. How long do you sit in it? And what energy are you pulling from it? Because there are many people that have told me, I don't want this. I don't wish this. But something inside of you does want it, because it's helping you heal from something, or it's pushing a button somewhere that really needs looked at. So it's going to continue happening until you look at that.
And if you're saying you don't like it, doesn't that sound like resisting? And what you resist persists. So by resisting the drama that's showing up and be like, I don't want the drama in my life, you're actually inviting more drama to your life, where you'd be like, you know what? This is kind of like cool, this whole story thing that I'm cooking up, and then from that point you can like start to shift the experience because you're not resisting anymore what's showing up. Anyway, we've gone like way over our 20 minutes we were planning the stream. I
All
got we're 44 minutes. But everyone, thank you so much for
Yes,
tuning
thank
in.
you.
Please tune in next week for the Unseen Entity Energy Drain. We'll be talking about all kinds of fun stuff with that one. And until next time, stay aware.